This conference will now be recorded.
We need to start over. Would you like me to call the meeting to order again, Cynthia? You're on mute. Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, Kyle.
Great. So, it's always good to practice. So, why don't we call the meeting to order? Welcome everyone. Cynthia, any public comment?
No public comment.
Great. We'll move to approval of minutes from the August 5th, 2021 that are in your board packet. If you all could take a quick look, and then I would happily take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Grandpa Day. Thank you, Karen. A second from Steve. Any comment? All in favor? Any opposed? And any abstentions? Fantastic. Okay, next on our agenda, I am going to make a motion that we move into executive session under Connecticut General Statute 1-210B1, which states preliminary drafts or notes, provided the public agency has determined that the public interest in withholding such documents clearly outweighs the public interest in disclosure. So I make a motion that we move into executive session. And can I have a second? Second from Frank. Okay. And we vote on that. All in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic.
This conference will now be recorded.
I think they're still sharing their screen. Someone is.
Oh, yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the agreement between the town of Mansfield and the Mansfield Downtown Partnership for management of the Nash Zimmer Transportation Center. There is an attachment in your packet that I'm hoping that you have all read through. Cynthia, do you have any comments that you want to make on this before we ask for a motion?
No, it's really the third iteration of our agreement with the town. The small change was the funding for staff now comes out of the library account. So this is the staff that's downstairs in the Library Express, actually in the waiting area, but as part of Library Express. Litter control is now coming out of the transit fund, or still coming out of the transit fund, but it's not related to the Nash Zimmer duties. So that is it. If the group approves the motion, I would send it to Ryan tomorrow to get in the council packet for the 13th, since I'm gone next week.
I had one minor question. Is that all right?
Sure.
So the piece where it talks about that the partnership does the marketing, is that essentially, I'm assuming that's no financial outlay, that it's just essentially what you've been doing in terms of using social media to push out kind of what the bus schedule is and anything else, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's no additional cost. We actually, I mean, quite honestly, we do that jointly. So Caitlin Epling, who helps operate it from the library standpoint, I mean, she definitely helps with getting the word out, working with WRTD and UConn. So we kind of do that jointly, but there's no additional cost. We don't pay for flyers, in other words, Kara, and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Cynthia, can I make the motion, or does somebody else have to make the motion? I can make it.
No, you can't, as chair, you can't make motions at all. It has to come from the body.
Great. So can I have a motion? It is in the packet, in the letter in the packet.
I'm hesitating. I would make the motion, except that I'm, because of my role on the council,
Yep.
it probably is not appropriate. So somebody else needs to do it.
No worries. Go ahead, Emily. Oh,
Got it. I'll make the motion. I move to recommend the agreement between the town of Mansfield and the Mansfield Downtown Partnership, Inc. for management of the Nash Zimmer Transportation Center to the Mansfield Town Council for approval.
can I have a second? Kara? Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We're in, on to the next executive director report. Cynthia.
Okay, I will try to be quick. I think I mentioned, well, I'm sorry. The first thing I should say is that Mary put in her resignation yesterday. She is going back to school at Eastern to get her master's in organizational management. So her last day is Wednesday. So I did give Steve a heads up, as chair of the EDC, where a lot of her role was. So I'm going to think about it while I'm gone, and I want to kind of regroup with Ryan and Steve, probably with Kathleen and Denise a little bit, and kind of talk about how maybe some of the outcomes from the strategic plan may play into that position. So, she's a lovely person. She's done a great job for us. I'm really, sad to see her leave. It's just she and I in here for about 10 months. But I think this is something she's been wanting to do. So I did want to let you all know about that. So we will be moving to Zoom at our next meeting. We're starting to transition over as the town has done. I'm still looking for some help at the festival. I think almost everybody here has some sort of duty, but I do need potentially one more person to help at the partnership table. We're also looking for help at headquarters, and we do need a few area captains. I know that Denise is going to really push that with the festival committee next week, but that's probably the most critical piece, is just that's really worked well for us the last couple of years, having somebody designated for a certain area. So, so please let Denise know if you can help. That would be great. And I appreciate everybody's help thus far. There are signs up on the old Toasted building, if you walked by there, with I don't know what it's called, but a ramen group coming in there. I did reach out to Joe Morrison, who's the leasing agent, to let him know, to keep us in the loop, who the contact is, if we can help grand openings, that type of thing. So that's about all I know on that space, but that's a good space to fill since it's been vacant for some time. Dave's Deli is now, I think, Brothers Deli in University Plaza. I know it's open. It's pretty much the same menu from what I understand. I have not been in there yet. I don't know if anybody else has. And one thing that's on our future agenda was meeting with the property owners, and Kyle and I talked about that a little bit. I don't know, based on our conversation earlier, whether timing should be different on those conversations. I don't know if we have to decide right this second, but without hurting the integrity of that conversation that we had earlier. I think that was it. Excuse me.
All set? Great. Okay. We'll move on to reports from committees. We'll start with Emily, celebrating Mansfield.
We are exactly a month away now. That's pretty exciting. We're doing well on fundraising. Denise was giving us updates and is still expecting some more funds to come in. there's a nice like kind of local fundraising activity from State Farm. I want to make sure I get it right. State Farm, for every household that we send their way to complete an auto, fire, or life quote, will make a $10 donation to help celebrate Mansfield. So you can check out the social media with that information, and maybe we can send that along to the board as well. But it's the Anthony, I don't know if I want to say Raggy, the local State Farm agent. So if you can get push people that way to just get a quote, that will help raise some funding. Funky Dogs was announced as the main act, and we're still working on some other entertainment aspects. There'll be an interactive drum performance, which sounds really cool. Some stilt walkers will be in attendance, so we're still kind of working on that. I think we were up to at least 43 booths last time we checked in, and I'm sure that number has gone up a little bit. There were a couple of food booths along with trucks, so I think there'll be several dining options. We as a group kind of finalized craft booth invites, so those were sent out to those groups. And as Cynthia mentioned, we're in search of area captains, so if you're interested, let Denise know. I think that was about it.
Great, thanks, Emily. Tony, finance?
We have a finance committee met and reviewed the financial statements, which are on your agenda. Now I've got to find hang on, it's here somewhere. There should be a motion.
I had a question about one of the financials.
Wait a second. So the motion is to accept the partnership June 30, 2021 financial reports. Comes from the so it doesn't need a second. There was nothing particularly interesting or challenging. Cynthia, do you want to make any other comment?
I'm sorry, Tony, was there a motion, or were you looking for a motion first, or?
I found it, I made it.
Oh, you made it, okay.
For the committee.
Okay. No, just, I mean, real quick, we're in the black, about $10,386, and we brought in more money than we had budgeted from memberships. Those are probably the major updates for everybody. And then I know Kara said she had a question.
Yeah, just a minor question. Under the operating expenses, what is professional and technical?
So that is probably the first bill for Street Sense.
That would
Was it though? Well, it's been a line item that's been consistent year over year. But what's interesting about it is it goes up and then half and then double and then half. So I was just curious what that was.
That line usually represents any kind of consulting firm. So we've had various kinds of consultants over time.
On an annual basis, we've had consultants?
We've had a few. I do have my little cheat sheet. Legal might come under there as well. So these are town of Mansfield like categories, Kara. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just hadn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what that was. That was it. That was my only question. Not questioning the line item. I'm just trying to understand what it's covering.
It's a series of individual contracts as a rule. So anything from legal to Street Sense to a marketing firm, or whoever we pay to off campus, essentially.
So we need to vote on that, Tony?
Yes.
Okay. So.
And the motion is to refer it to the town council for its approval.
Great. And so
No, wait, not this one. Sorry. It's just to approve.
Yep, they approve the financial reports. Yep.
Yep.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Thank you, Tony. Frank, governance, any updates?
Yeah, we met August 23rd. We had a meeting and we're building out our work plan for the year, anticipating that we're going to have a lot of activity with strategic planning, reviewing the bylaws, and there's a couple of observances there. This is the first time the governance committee hasn't had the chair be the president. Both Diana and Steve prior had served in both roles, so just an observation was made about our need to coordinate with the other committees. So we may build into our work plans some communications between executive and growth and finance, just to make sure that we're fulfilling the needs of those committees in terms of membership and engagement has been an important key for us, thinking about what the committee can do to keep our board members engaged in their duties. So that's what we covered, and Sean had provided a little bit of a preview of the strategic planning that we covered. So thank you.
Great. I think that's it. Cynthia, you said no, there was no report from the executive committee, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Okay, so next on the agenda, upcoming agenda items, we will, I think you touched on the meetings with property owners. We can revisit that. Prabhas, do you have any update for us on the Yukon Student Consulting Group project?
Nothing has changed in terms of updates since the last board meeting, but given what we might come out of this strategic or this consulting project with, we might make some tweaks to our survey if there are some things that we need to adjust for, but that'll start in the winter, over winter break, and then we'll hit the ground with that in the spring. So nothing for immediate attention now.
Great. Okay, and correspondence and communications were all listed in the packet. So you should all have access to that. And then I will just ask if anybody has anything else before we, before Kara.
I have a question, and it actually relates to the correspondence. And so I'm curious, the narrative about the liquor piece and the legislation that was going through and how that could impact our ability to perhaps recruit a business to the downtown. Where did that end up? Because I think that article was from June, and I hadn't actually been following the legislation.
All right, so let me explain. The existing statutes list a list of possible permits that can be granted for the distribution of liquor. However, when prohibition was repealed and the regulation of liquor was left to the state of Connecticut decided to leave it to the towns. And in 1965, when I came to Mansfield, this was a dry town, and it very slowly became more wet. In order to change the permits which can be granted for liquor production or distribution, it required a petition of 1,500 signatures. What we went to the legislature for was to get that requirement removed from the statute, and they did that last year. So what the council now, there are two sets of town rules on liquor licenses. One in planning and zoning, where they can create a whole range of opportunities for people to request permits, and one in town ordinances, which specifies the kinds of permits that we will grant. Planning and zoning had 3 requests, and so that we amended our ordinances so that those 3 permits could be granted. We also have created an ad hoc committee to look at the whole list of potential permits to see which ones we would like to add for the town. And it's very clear that there are various kinds of manufacture and distribution that we are willing and interested in introducing, in particular, to enhance the opportunities in the downtown. And the whole question started out of the question of could we put a brew pub down there? And there have been a number of serious objections to that, but the big one was the permitting process was not possible. So if somebody comes to the planning and zoning and says we want to manufacture, we want to distill whiskey in the pub 86, whatever, Grill 86 place, that developer would have to come to the town and request a permit. And then the planning and zoning, if we hadn't already figured out how to do that, planning and zoning would come to the council and ask us to adopt a change in the ordinance that would grant this particular use a legal permit. So the ones that we've granted responded to particular requests, but we are on the process of opening the whole list of potential permits so that whoever wants to do something that makes sense to planning and zoning can do it. With planning and zoning having the final say, of course.
Okay, so sounds like that was a win.
Oh
In
yeah,
the end.
absolutely. On
Yeah.
all.
I know we even have a challenge on campus with the liquor permitting and having to go through distributors. Frank, when we get donations from alums who own orchards, we have a challenge because they have to go through a distributor, and our catering entity has its own distributor, which may not necessarily accept the wine of the donor, and it gets really complicated over something as simple as wanting to donate wine. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because again, we all know, like, we don't have an actual bar downtown right now, so that's a detriment in a lot of ways of, trying to do things with, more of a non-student crowd, especially pre-show or after show.
The bar 32 on Route 32 has a new name, and they've been doing work on it, so that may open. It's called the Poorhouse, P-O-U-R. So we can all go down to the Poorhouse.
Is that the same poorhouse? There's already a poorhouse. Is this a different poorhouse or the same owner?
I have no idea. I've never heard of the Poorhouse before.
Yeah, there used to be a poorhouse. I don't know if it's the same owner though.
So my understanding is it's the same owner as Grill 86.
No.
Awesome.
Oh, Lord. Have they learned anything in the interim?
On that note,
Hey, could I just wanted to add one last comment. You know, we've had a lot on our plate with the strategic planning. Usually in past years, the meeting before a month out of the festival, a lot of the focus and enthusiasm is about the festival. I just wanted to, I feel like it's getting shortchanged. We should be all in. So much goes into this. This is our big show. Thank you again, Emily, and everybody, and Cynthia, and the team that are working on this, and all the volunteers. And I hope, because I signed up for that 4 to 6 slot, that I'm not discouraging anybody else from joining me. I'm going to be all alone at that table. There's got to be one of you that wants to join.
I'm coming late in the day. I have class until 4, but I'm coming after. So I'm hesitant to sign up in case my professor keeps us late. But, and I will say, Emily and especially Denise, I mean, the whole committee, but Denise is absolutely killing it. I mean, she is just, I'm sure all she's thinking about is this festival. And, I mean, if, you know, so it is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we got to thank her on this because she's been putting so much time and thought into it. I just saw her out this week meeting with like the fire marshal and the police department. So she's been amazing. So if people can really put in the time to help her out as an area captain or a volunteer, I know, I would really appreciate it and she would because she has been tirelessly working on this for all summer and before that.
Absolutely. Great. Awesome. Anybody else, or can I have a motion to adjourn? Emily, I have a second. Prabhas, all in favor? Great. Have a great evening, everybody. Enjoy your dinner and the rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Good
And
night.
yeah, have a great trip.
Good night, all. Have a good trip, Cynthia. Have a good trip.